Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. There was this talk show back in the late 90s called Forgive or Forget. Someone would come on and talk about how they wronged a loved one or a family member. And then there was a big reveal where there's a closed door, and if the wronged party walked through the door, it meant they were ready to forgive. And if not, well, you get the point. If only forgiveness actually worked like that, was actually that black and white. Honoree Fanonne Jeffers' memoir, Misbehaving at the Crossroads, is a lesson in how complicated and thorny forgiveness can be. The book is, in part, about coming to terms with the actions of her parents. But she tells NPR's Juana that the book isn't some morality lesson telling you to make amends with your loved ones. It's just what happened when she finally decided to walk through that door herself. That's ahead.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. Claim your $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/NPR. Terms and conditions apply. Support for NPR and the following message come from Boll & Branch. Turn your bed into a sanctuary this fall with their buttery, breathable bedding. Enjoy 15% off your first set of sheets at BOLLandbranch.com with code NPR. Exclusions apply.
Author Honoree Fanonne Jeffers writes about the unique position of Black women in her latest book. She describes what it means to be at the crossroads.
You are at a place where trouble meets possibility. For me, the notion of the crossroads is the notion of intersectionality of Black women.
In Misbehaving at the Crossroads, Honoree Fanonne Jeffers excavates memories of her childhood, including her father's abuse and her mother's challenges in protecting her from it. She also weaves together history, political commentary, and poetry, all centering Black American women. When I spoke with her, I asked her to describe her mother, Dr. Trellie Lee James Jeffers.
Mama was literally born in an abandoned slave shack. She lost an eye in a tragic childhood accident, and she still went on to graduate as valedictorian of her class. She won a scholarship to Spelman College. When she left Spelman, she came back to her hometown of Eatonton, Georgia. And then she and my father married. It was a troubled marriage. And then after Daddy passed away, she went back and she earned a doctorate. So she was really very extraordinary.
You also write a good deal about your father and how, as you put it, he could so easily flicker from kind to cruel. And you wrote that up until you were putting together what became this book, that the memory of your father and his emotional, physical, and sexual abuse continued to affect both your mental and spiritual health. What allowed you to free yourself from that affecting you?
I think what began to happen is that I understood that what he did wasn't right, but I knew he had been a wounded person. And there was no space for him to heal because there is this role that Black men are expected to inhabit, stoic, strong protectors. And so when you are forced to inhabit that role, there's no room for your vulnerability. But I remember those horrible arguments, which sometimes were physically abusive, but many times just Daddy just saying horrible things to Mama and her, screaming back and stuff. And my sisters and I would be gathered around the vent, and we would hear things. And then he would burst into tears. And there would be this rusty aching in his voice. And I didn't want to feel sorry for him as a little girl, but I did.
Yeah. Your book ends with some journal entries from 2023 after you were caring for your mother who had early dementia. And when we read your entries, we learn about how her consciousness and her tether to the world around her sort of ebbs and flows. What was that time like for you, stepping into that caregiving role for her?
It was very difficult. Let me just say this, because there's no halo around my head. Mama and I had been estranged. Mm-hmm. And what I really wanted to do is to bring her comfort and, joy during this time. And so Mama had been a modern dancer when she was in college. So we would watch little snippets of the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater. And I would remind her that she had been a dancer.
You also cooked for her, too, I know.
Oh, yeah, that was something. Because it was a running joke in my family that I couldn't cook collard greens. Mm-hmm. But I prayed over it. I prayed real strong, and then I went on Facebook and I asked some of the sisters, the black women. And then one afternoon, I just took the whole afternoon and I made those collard greens and I made cornbread to go along. And then when I brought it to her, she said, "This pot liquor is excellent." That's the broth of the collard greens. And then when I left her, I sat in my car and I cried. I was so happy because I just wanted to make my mama happy.
I have to tell you, when I was reading that part of your story, I almost burst into tears because there's nothing that reminds me of home more than eating my mother's greens, and I could never do them justice. So I can imagine the pressure you were feeling to get them right.
So much pressure. It was a lot of pressure.
It occurred to me as I was reading that at the point that you've published this book and written this and revisited all these memories, your mother, your father had both passed. Did that in any way make you feel more free to explore all of this, to write these truths down?
At first, no. But when I took over Mama's care, I would run into complete strangers. And it was almost like the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. I had to just keep talking about how we had been estranged because I felt so guilty, Mm. And then people began to share with me. I hadn't talked to my mama in 3 years. I was abused as a child. And, and it's real interesting, you sharing the most personal details of your life with complete strangers. And so I began to think about, we have a saying in the Black church, "Let me encourage you." I don't know if people want to take from my story that, okay, you must reconcile with your parents. Because if somebody had told me that Mama and I would have come together, I would have laughed in their face. Mm. But I know that I have a joy and a peace that I never thought possible. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And it's because of that reconciliation. So, maybe.
Honoree Fanonne Jeffers, her book, Misbehaving at the Crossroads, is out now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
This message comes from Schwab. At Schwab, how you invest is your choice, not theirs. That's why when it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices. You can invest and trade on your own. Plus, get advice and more comprehensive wealth solutions to help meet your unique needs. With award-winning service, low costs, and transparent advice, you can manage your wealth your way at Schwab. Visit schwab.com to learn more.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Boll & Branch. Turn your bed into a sanctuary this fall with their buttery, breathable bedding. Enjoy 15% off your first set of sheets at BOLL&branch.com with code NPR. Exclusions apply. This message comes from Sattva. Getting quality sleep can improve athletic abilities, increase energy, and boost memory and learning. Sattva mattresses are designed to promote that kind of sleep. Save $200 on $1,000 or more at sattva.com/NPR.